Most people think that Logan Paul and KSI started YouTube boxing, but what if I told you they actually stole this idea from somebody? Say hi to Joe Weller. He's one of the UK's biggest YouTubers, and without him, we would have never gotten YouTube boxing. That means no Logan versus Floyd or Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. You see, this all started in 2017 when Joe Weller challenged his friend Malfoy to a boxing match. Little did they know they were going to change the internet forever. And that's because of KSI, who said he wanted to fight the winner of the match, which put some stakes on this video. They end up scrapping, and Joe Weller ends up winning the fight, setting up a match between Joe Weller and KSI, two of the UK's biggest YouTubers. Now, this is the important part. KSI and Joe Weller literally laid the foundation down for how anybody would promote a major event on YouTube for the next decade. Because the way they promoted it was through their YouTube videos. Joe Weller and KSI were actually boys growing up, which is what set up the perfect drama like this was a UFC or a boxing match, like in real professional sports. They started beefing back and forth, knowing damn well these guys are probably homies on the low, but that didn't matter. For the YouTube videos, this was pure entertainment. They were beefing, they built up all this hype, and they sold out tickets to one of the biggest internet events up until that point. And so they end up fighting, and KSI wins the match. But what KSI did next is arguably one of the most iconic moments in YouTube history. And that was the call out to the Pauls. He said, Logan Paul, Jake Paul, Greg Paul, their dad, anybody can get the smoke. I want to fight a Paul. And that's where KSI lit the internet on fire. Because all of a sudden, you had the two biggest YouTubers in the world and their brothers on the same card fighting in this absolute mega match. But here's the part everybody forgets. This whole strategy came from the Joe Weller fight. So KSI and Deji were doing the same thing they did like a couple months back. And so they beefed online. They eventually fought, ended up having a tie in the first match, so they had to do a rematch. Everybody forgets that all of this, the whole formula, came from KSI versus Joe Weller. And like I said before, this was the blueprint. They weren't the only ones using this formula. You had Bryce Hall and Austin McBroom doing the exact same thing, along with plenty of other creators. Looking at Logan versus Floyd, same formula on social media. Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul, same way you promote any match, they just found the sweet spot on how to do this on YouTube. And Joe Weller has also talked about this. Like, everyone is in agreement that this all started from this guy fighting Malfoy. That's where all of this came from. And it's not like there's any hard feelings, I'm sure, behind these guys, but it is kind of crazy how he just gets forgotten for laying the blueprint for how any creator event happens, at least in the fighting scene. When you start to really think about the butterfly effect, though, of how like Prime Energy would have never happened if these two didn't fight, and these two only fought because this guy fought Joe Weller, like, it's a pretty crazy timeline we're in. For all we know, there's a universe where Malfoy is like the CEO of Prime Energy. I don't know, it's crazy. Shout out to Joe Weller. No one gives this guy the credit he deserves, but he literally shaped an entire generation of fights on YouTube. It's pretty wild.